Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. Today we're going to be talking about Little Potato, and you're going to say, well, who's Little Potato? Well, that's what the Chinese people call our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, Little Potato. And you know, they're not far wrong, because Little Potato, and I may refer to him as Little Potato throughout this video, because I think they hit the nail right on the head. Well, Little Potato, but it's not just about Little Potato. It's about China, it's about Saudi Arabia, it's about the United States, it's about a lot of things that are going on in the world today and how it reflects on us Canadians as a country. Okay, well, first off, the Chinese have no respect for Little Potato. Everybody knows that Canada arrested Miss Meng, the CFO of Huawei Technologies, back on December 1st, and they're going through the extradition proceedings in Canada to see if they're going to send her to the United States or they're going to release her. Okay, well, this has PO'd the Chinese off to the extreme. And the Chinese say, well, you, Little Potato, can fix this. And Little Potato say, oh no, that's the Justice Department over there, and we're politicians. We can't get involved in that. That's not how our system works. We deal with the rule of law. Okay, well, fast forward a month or so, and you get Little Potato and his little cronies in the Liberal Party, and SNC Lavalin get there's been bribery charges dealing with Libyan contracts because they're one of the biggest engineering companies. Well, they are the biggest engineering company and construction company in Canada, and of course, SNC Lavalin is a Quebec corporation. Where does Little Potato come from? He comes from Quebec. So now Little Potato, because SNC Lavalin has been caught bribing and extortion, bribing with $48 million to Libyan company owners and politicians and whatever, and extorting over $130 million from Libya. So they got caught. Okay, now Little Potato and his cronies were leaning on Jody Wilson, I can't remember her last name. Anyway, she was the Attorney General of Canada. They were leaning on her to make it so that they could just make a plea bargain and pay a fine instead of going through the criminal charges. So the politicians were getting involved with the judicial system, and the rule of law didn't matter anymore, because we're not dealing with a Chinese business, we're dealing with a Quebec business. So it goes one way or the other. It doesn't, you know, you can't have it both ways there, Little Potato. Anyway, so this is a big problem now for the Liberal government in Canada, where you're trying to influence the judicial system, but you can't do it for China, but you could do it for Quebec. So favoritism in politics is not a good thing. So the Saudis, okay, well, your human rights are atrocious. You can't do that. You can't do this. So the Saudis say, well, kiss our ass. We're going to stop dealing with you. Pull all of our students out of Canada. And the universities lose money because they don't have these Saudi students. So in Saudi Arabia, we deal a lot with them. They used to be an ally. Now they're not. So Trudeau, since he's been in a couple years ago, he's pissed off the Chinese to the max, where trade with China is down big time for Canadians. Our Canadian dollar's going down. And it's basically to do with the trade that we have with China. The oil is low too, so there's other things at play there. But a big part of it is the lack of trade with China now. Okay, so you've pissed off the Chinese, you've pissed off the Saudi Arabians, and you've pissed off Trump and the boys down south. Well, you don't want to piss off. So all of these big trading partners that we used to have under the Conservative government are now, we're our friends and we're our trading partners, and we're on good terms with these people. Now we're not anymore. How come? Yap, yap, yap. See, you can't turn a drama teacher, a part-time drama teacher, into a prime minister overnight. Well, somebody that can't string 3 words together without going you know what I mean, anybody that's seen him on TV. And then his sidekick there, Maria Freemason, Bachelor of Arts in Russian Literature. That's what you need to be a spokesperson for Canada. Okay, well, I digress now. On to some more interesting things. I've been asked on my channel by numerous people about this Robert Schellenberg thing. It's the Canadian that got caught in 2014 as an accessory to a 1/4 ton of methamphetamines being transported, or trying to transport a 1/4 ton of methamphetamines from China to Australia. Okay, well, in 2014 he was arrested for being a part of this. And he went to court and he got 15 years. Cool. See, in China, if you get caught with over 1 3/4 ounces of meth, that puts you in line for the death penalty. This is the law in China. So a 1/4 ton of meth. What's the chance of getting off on that? Well, because they were probably lenient on Robert just for the fact that he's a Canadian. That they figured that maybe he was just an accessory to this, where he wasn't the main kingpin, he wasn't the person moving this stuff, he wasn't totally 100% involved. Well, so what did Robert and his great attorney do? They appealed the 15-year sentence. Good. Okay, 15 years is a lot of time. He's already done 4 years. So he only had 11 years to go. So they appeal this thing, and bad timing. That's all. Sounds like a Blue Rodeo song. Just at that time, the Meng thing hit in Canada, and the Chinese said, well, you're not going to show our people any leniency. Why would we show your people any leniency? Tit for tat, this for that. And that's just the way the world works. So Robert gets in there and he's hoping to get a lesser sentence, and the Chinese government brings in new evidence. Chinese guy stating that he was helping Robert Schellenberg put this meth into tires to be exported to Australia. Bingo, bango, bongo, death sentence. Okay, so now he's got that hanging over his head. Little Potato gets up in front of the news and saying, oh, we don't like this, we're going to do this, there's nothing he can do. You see, it all stemmed back 2 years ago when Little Potato became the Prime Minister of Canada because of Daddy's name. Trudeau was Trudeau back in the day. Pierre Elliott Trudeau married Maggie, and Maggie had an affair with Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones, so we're not really sure whether it's Pierre Trudeau's kid or Mick Jagger's kid, but that's another story. Conspiracy theories, eh? I'm full of them. You wait and see. Anyway, so the Conservatives are in for a while, and then the Liberals say, oh, let's get that Trudeau name back in here. Okay, well, let's get the Trudeau name back in here. Bingo. Canadians, Eastern Canadians, and I'm talking about you, Quebec and Ontario, because they have the major population. By the time it comes to the West, we don't have much of a say who is running our country, and that's the Western Canada Party is coming up. You wait and see. Anyway, I keep digressing. Anyway, so Little Potato gets in there, and he's thinking that Canada's this big, strong, everybody listens to Canada country. Well, we got 35 million people. We're just a little speck on the political stage in the world. And he figured that he could go and tell the Chinese what to do, and the Saudi Arabians what to do, and the States what to do. And there's a number of other people out there, countries out there, that he sticks his nose, and it's big enough, into their business. But after a couple of years, he's starting to figure out, oh, you see, we're not that big of a political power on the world stage, and he's made it difficult. Our dollar is down. Oh, sure, it has to do with the oil is down, but pissing off our trading partners doesn't help either. So by him doing this, he's pretty well sentenced Robert Schellenberg to death. It's not the Chinese fault. The Chinese have their laws, and they were lenient to Robert in the beginning, back in 2014 when he was arrested, and they gave him 15 years. The stupid smuck appealed something that he could get the death penalty for. That's not very smart. Okay? And he probably would have got 15 years again, or 20 years, or 10 years, who knows, but because Trudeau is such a knob and stuck his nose in the political system of Canada, and why arrest somebody at the Vancouver airport? She's got a couple houses in Vancouver and stuff, you could, it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so there goes the leniency. Sure, there's a couple other people that got picked up over there, and Canadians, are they as safe in China as they used to be? No, they're not. Is it safe for me and you and just a regular Joe in China? Yeah, it's as safe as it ever has been in China for your regular Canadians. If you're political, if you're doing drugs, if you're trying to peddle a 1/4 ton of methamphetamines from China to Australia, well, yeah, you're gonna get nabbed, and you're gonna go to jail, and you could get the death penalty. So these things, just don't do that. The world and different countries have been saying that there's a lot of methamphetamines being made in China, and they're sending it over here, and damn those Chinese for doing this. But when China police catch these people and punish them according to Chinese law, then, like Robert, well, then all of a sudden, oh, you can't do this, that's not politically correct. Here, I'll tell you one thing. I'm in Nanaimo now, and we had a snowstorm, and you don't get many snowstorms in Nanaimo. Here, I'll grab the camera and I'll show you out my window here. Okay, well, for a boy born in Saskatchewan, this was normal, and it got down to 4 below Celsius. Oh, you could have, your nose could have got cold, or your finger could have got cold. You're not going to die. You could sleep out in this stuff, and you'll be fine. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week, no school for the kids. Well, I know in Saskatchewan, if it's 40 below or 30 below, school's on. If it snows 5 inches, school's on. And you come out here to BC, the most politically correct place in all of Canada, where, oh, you can't say that, oh, those poor children, why would they have to go to school when there's snow on the ground? Or the teachers, I have to drive my car all the way over to the school, and I could get in an accident if, it's just stupid. It's things like this that make Canada not as competitive. So what are you teaching your children today? Oh, it's snowing outside, so you don't have to go to work. I think we've taught our children enough wimpy shit already. If it snows outside, put your boots on, put your jacket, your mitts, your toque on, go to school. When they get older, they're going to say, oh, it snowed outside, I guess I don't have to go to work today. Everybody's finding an excuse not to do things. Well, that's not the way my generation was brought up. It was 40 below outside, and I had to walk about a mile to school when I lived in Weldon. It's a small town, but the school's on the other side of town. 40 below, you get your boots and your jacket and stuff on, and if your nose got cold, you just sucked it up, and that's the way it is. Nowadays, it's a total different thing. So I'm ranting now. It's one of the things I saw this week that sort of pissed me off. That the kids are, but yet we've got Howard and Isabella. They're little Chinese kids that live upstairs in the building here. On these days off, they're outside playing in the snow. So you can't walk to school in the snow. but you can play in the snow. You know what I mean? So it's not the kids making these decisions, it's these politically correct teachers that are supposed to be teaching our kids work hard, have good values, this, that, the other thing, and what do? They teach them the opposite. They teach them how to be little pussy wimps. It's just not the way it's supposed to be. Anyway, I digress and I do these rants every once in a while. So what do you think Robert Schellenberg penalty would have been if he got caught in Singapore with a 1/4 ton of meth? You got it. He would have been put to death. How about Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Malaysia, Indonesia? Exactly. The same thing, the death penalty. So, see, countries over in that part of the world, they're not like Canada, the United States, or Britain, or France, or whatever. If you get caught doing stuff like this, you get the death penalty. In Canada, oh, you might get 10 years off for good behavior, so you get 2 years in jail and 3 years in a halfway house or something, and then probation or parole for the next 5 years. And if you don't reoffend during that, or they don't catch you reoffending, then you're okay and away you go. Well, you see, in these other countries, they say, no, you can't do this. And if you do, then you're not going to do it twice. So this is probably why we have such a drug problem in Canada, the United States, the opioid problem. You have 1,500 deaths here in BC last year because of opioid overdose. Well, the people that are selling it, if they get caught once, they're done in China. So then you don't have these 1,500 deaths. How many deaths do you think a 1/4 ton of methamphetamines would cause in Australia? How many family breakdowns? How many meth addictions? How much economic garbage would that 1/4 pound of meth cause in Australia from this one person that got caught from Canada? Who cares if he's from Canada, the United States, Bangladesh? Who gives a rat's ass? He got caught with a 1/4 ton of methamphetamines in China, and then the Canadian government is going to try to stick up for him? My God, Martha, that's just not the way it's supposed to be. So it got to the point where Canada put a travel advisory against China, saying, well, you could arbitrarily be detained. So then China did the same thing about Canada. Well, we've got a travel advisory to Canada that you could arbitrarily be detained. Okay, and China's a big country. It's got just about 1.4 billion people. The middle class is huge now. They travel a lot. So putting that travel advisory out against Canada and promoting in China, don't go to Canada, this is not a good place for you, you might be arrested, you might be this, you might be that. Okay, so like Ottawa was just ramping up to do a big tourism push to get Chinese tourists into Ottawa. Well, that all went to dog shit after the Chinese put out this travel advisory. So, and you know, China's used this, it's a passive way to get their point across because money talks. And in this day and age in the world, money is what makes this whole thing go around. That's what everybody's working on. Oh, is that wine? Oh yeah, it wouldn't be a Gweilo 60 video without a little bit of BC wine. Well, when I'm here, it could be Yap Brandy or Li Chen Peugeot or Walmart wine when I'm in China. Anyway, so they put this travel advisory against Canada, and they did the same thing for Korea when they were putting in the THAAD missiles in South Korea. I think that's a year and a half or 2 years ago now. And the Chinese government said, okay, well, we're not sending our tourists to South Korea anymore until this is all fixed, because they're using an economic way to punish South Korea. It works good. All of these companies that used to take people to South Korea just stopped doing business. They stopped sending people to South Korea. South Korea that businesses that relied on Chinese tourists, that all stopped. And economically it hurt South Korea, you know. And now, what's that wine? Ah, baby. So now they're doing the same thing to Canada. And, you know, the Chinese tourists are slowing down and stopping here in Canada, which I guess if Little Potato dealt with his stuff properly, this wouldn't happen. So it's a way for China to passively punish countries that they think are doing them wrong, and it works. I guess what this video comes down to is when you're in a different country, whether it be China, the United States, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Singapore, doesn't matter. You have to respect the laws of that country. If you go over there and you break a law, ignorance is no excuse. So if you're, oh, I didn't know I could get the death penalty for peddling methamphetamines. I don't know what to say about that. You know, so when you go to these countries, know the laws. Don't do stupid things. Wake up and smell the coffee, because if you get arrested in one of these countries, you know, China's no different than many countries around the world. They have harsher punishments. They deal with more people, 1.4 billion people, 1.35, 1.4 billion people. We've got 35 million, and we've got a lot of problems here in Canada. Just think, trying to run a country with 1.4 billion people. It's just a nightmare, I'm sure. But from being in China for over 15 years, I've seen very little violence, I've seen no violence except for the one time when two fish salesmen at the wet market went at each other with filleting knives. Well, neither of them won that one. They were both laying on stretchers. But you see, that's the only violence I've ever seen in China, and it'll be in 5 months, 6 months. It'll be 16 years that I've been traveling to China. So, man, I see more violence in Canada on a weekend than I've seen in China in 16 years. So maybe the way that they deal with things is better than the way that we deal with things. Sure, we're softer because you don't have to be that harsh. Well, but then you don't have to be that easy either. So you got to think. Don't go to these places and do stupid things. When you come to Canada, you can do as many stupid things as you want, and you'll probably only end up in jail for a weekend or a month or a year. You know, you got to do something real serious to get pen time, and that's 2 years. So, like, think about this stuff before you do it. Lately, I have talked to a number of people that I have on WeChat, and they're Americans, they're Canadians, they're Swedes, they're from all over the world, Australia, wherever, and after all of this stuff has happened, has anything changed over there? Because I haven't been there for a little while now because of Wei Fang and her medical problems. You know, so I could touch base with my friends and the Chinese friends too and stuff, and say, you know, anything changed? Is everything the same? Is it more dangerous, or is it, you know? No, nothing's changed. We haven't heard. But then, you know, I know everybody in Nanning, and Nanning's off the beaten path. So it takes a lot for it to filter down into a tier 3 city like Nanning. So no, it's still safe for everybody there. Is it as safe? Probably not, but it's still safe in China for tourists. And as soon as Wei Fang's feeling better, we are back to Nanning. I guarantee you that. Anyway, this is my rant for the week. And sorry I haven't made a video for a couple of weeks because I've sort of been busy shoveling snow, you know, and just things around the house. But it's my rant for this week. And I know I traveled in a whole bunch of different directions on this video, and that's just the way I am. If you watch any of my videos, very few of them have just one direction. They have more than one direction. So anyway, that's another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button, and thanks for watching. Until next time, bye now.